I still remember the moment I saw her step out of the car. Her hair was curled just like mine used to be. Her smile, wide and polished, aimed right at the cameras. And around her neck was my necklace. Not just any necklace. It was my mother's, passed down to me the night before my wedding. Sapphire, vintage clasp, custom engraving on the back. To my darling girl, shine always. There was no mistaking it. She wore it like it was hers, like it never meant anything to me. And the worst part? She looked me dead in the eye and smirked. That was the moment I knew. Madison didn't just steal from me. She studied me, mirrored me, and when the moment was right, she became me. And for a long time I let her. Because I thought that's what friends did. I thought trust was stronger than suspicion. I was wrong. Have you ever loved someone like a sister, only to realize they saw you as a stepping stone? Tell me where you're watching from, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you called family. People talk about soulmates like they're always romantic. But for me, it wasn't a man, it was Madison Hart. We met sophomore year at the University of North Carolina. I was studying psychology, she was in fashion merchandising. I had just transferred from a community college after 2 years of saving money, and everything felt intimidating, until I found her. Or maybe she found me. I was standing outside the campus bookstore, juggling my iced coffee, my student planner, and a folder full of financial aid paperwork when I dropped everything on the pavement. Papers went flying, and before I could bend down, she was already scooping them up with her perfectly manicured hands. "I got you, girl," she said, flashing a smile that somehow managed to be both glamorous and goofy. That was Madison, charm and chaos all rolled into one. She had this magnetic presence, like everyone wanted to be around her. And somehow, she chose me. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Underscore 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 underscore. We became roommates junior year. Our tiny off-campus apartment smelled like lavender oil and burnt popcorn. We'd stay up late watching reruns of Grey's Anatomy, painting our nails, and sharing dreams like secrets. She wanted to run her own fashion boutique one day, and I just wanted a life that felt stable, safe. Something I'd never really had growing up. Madison brought that feeling into my life. She had an overprotective dad, a mother who drank too much wine, and a brother who was always in trouble, but she never let it weigh her down. Instead, she poured all her energy into creating beauty. Her room was covered in sketches of clothing, outfit collages, swatches of fabric taped to the wall. "You're my muse, Alyssa," she'd say. "If I ever design a line, I'm naming one of the collections after you." And I believed her. My birthday that first year together? She threw me a surprise party in our apartment. Streamers, candles, cupcakes with edible glitter, and a hand-stitched journal she'd made herself, with our initials embossed on the cover. "I know you've got trust issues," she said as I opened it. "But with me, you're safe. Always." Those words stayed with me. Maybe too much. I introduced her to my family in Charlotte over Thanksgiving. My mom was hesitant. She said Madison seemed a little performative, but my younger brother Jason loved her immediately. "She's got main character energy," he joked, and Madison just laughed and twirled in her scarf like she was on a runway. She knew how to impress people. And yet, around me, she was softer. More real. Or, at least, that's what I thought. After college, I landed a job as a wellness coordinator for a local mental health nonprofit. It wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful. Madison moved to Atlanta to start her fashion career, but we talked daily. Voice notes, video calls, Instagram tags. She was still my person. When I got engaged to my longtime boyfriend Eric, she was the first person I told.
She cried.
Not the fake social media kind, but real, sniffly tears. "I'm so proud of you, LYSS," she whispered. "You're gonna have the life I always wanted but never believed I deserved." That line, it made my heart ache. So I made her my maid of honor. The wedding planning months were intense, but Madison dove in like she was born for it. She picked my dress, designed the invitations, and even handmade the bride-to-be sash for my bachelorette weekend. She'd always been crafty, but this time it felt extra. She wanted every detail to be perfect. She even offered to store the heirloom jewelry my mom passed down to me, my grandmother's diamond earrings, and the sapphire necklace. We didn't have a safe at the house yet, and Madison insisted she had a proper lockbox in her condo. "Better with me than in a box under your socks," she said with a wink. I didn't even think twice. Madison delivered a speech at the reception that left everyone in tears. "Alyssa taught me that love doesn't always have to come with conditions," she said, raising her glass. "She gave me the kind of friendship people pray for, and I only hope I've given her even half as much." People stood to applaud. My mom wiped her eyes. Eric leaned in and whispered, "You two are soul sisters." I nodded, because we were. Over the next year, we didn't talk as much. I was adjusting to married life. Work got busier. Madison's brand was blowing up on social media. She launched an online boutique called Heart and Soul, and within months, influencers were wearing her designs. Still, we checked in. Birthday cards. Holiday calls. A long FaceTime in March when I told her I was thinking about trying for a baby. "You'd be the coolest mom ever," she said. "Just don't lose yourself. Promise me." I promised. The shift happened slowly. I started noticing she wouldn't respond for days. When she did, it was short, one-word answers. Delayed reactions. I chalked it up to her being busy, and I didn't want to be needy. Then came the little digs. The comments on my Instagram posts like, "Who dressed you today, sis?" "Face with tears of joy," or "Loving the domestic goddess vibe LOL. They felt like jokes. Until they didn't. But I ignored it. Because I loved her. Because she'd been there for me. Because friendships go through seasons, right? The last time I saw her before everything blew up was at a charity gala for a mutual friend's nonprofit in Atlanta. I hadn't planned to go, but Madison begged. "It's been forever," she said. "Let's get glam again, like old times." Eric stayed back for work, so I flew in alone. When I arrived, Madison was already surrounded by people, stylists, local celebrities, her new assistant. She looked radiant, powerful, and a little unfamiliar. "LYSS," she squealed, hugging me. "Look at you, still so cute and cozy." It felt like a compliment and a cut. At the same time, that night, I noticed her being overly flirty with a few married men, including one I vaguely knew from her past. I felt out of place, like I was witnessing someone I didn't recognize. I left early, saying I wasn't feeling well. 3 weeks later, the betrayal revealed itself in the most unexpected way. I was scrolling through a lifestyle blog that often featured local designers, and there was a new post titled, "Atlanta's fashion darling Madison Hart wows in vintage glam at recent gala." There was a photo. She was smiling. And there, unmistakable, right around her neck, was my mother's sapphire necklace. The same one she'd promised was safe in her condo. My blood turned to ice. I zoomed in, looked at the engraving. It was mine. No doubt about it. I called her immediately. No answer. Texted. No reply. An hour later, she posted a story from a spa in the mountains. Laughing. Holding champagne. Wearing my necklace. Like none of it mattered. I didn't cry right away. I just sat on the floor of my closet and stared into space. I kept replaying the past 10 years in my mind like a movie reel. Every sleepover, every promise, every birthday toast. All of it collapsing under the weight of that one photo. Was she ever really my friend? Had she just been studying me the whole time? Wearing me, mimicking me, and now erasing me. It didn't make sense. But in my bones, I knew. Madison hadn't just stolen jewelry. She'd stolen me. Looking back, I think my gut knew long before I did. But when someone's woven into your life so tightly, it's easy to confuse the knots for comfort. After the gala and the photo of the necklace, I tried to push the panic down. I told myself there has to be a reason. Maybe Madison forgot she had it. Maybe she meant to tell me. Maybe I gave her permission and just forgot. The mind will do all kinds of gymnastics to protect your idea of someone you love. So, I gave her one more chance. I sent her a message.
Hey, Mads.
Just saw a pic of you at the gala wearing my mom's necklace. No big deal, just wanted to ask if you still had the other pieces I left with you? Let's catch up soon. Her reply came 6 hours later. Oh, babe, I totally forgot. Was rushing that night and thought it looked good with the dress. Didn't even realize it was the necklace, lol. We'll drop everything off next week. No apology. No explanation. Just lol. She never dropped the jewelry off. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. I reached out again, and her tone shifted. Girl, I've got a million things going on. I'll mail it, okay? Relax. That word, relax, slapped me in the face. It's what people say when they want you to feel crazy, when they want to shut down your voice before you even raise it. Around that time, mutual friends began acting differently too. Tasha, one of our college friends, messaged me to ask why Madison had unfollowed her on Instagram. She said, "You've been weird lately," Tasha wrote. Did something happen? I didn't know how to respond. Weird? Because I asked for my mother's heirloom back? But I brushed it off again. Madison could be dramatic. Maybe she was just overwhelmed with her growing brand. Except it wasn't just Tasha. A few weeks later, another old friend, Elena, canceled dinner last minute. I ran into Madison last week, she texted. She said you two had a falling out. Hope you're okay. That was the moment I realized she was crafting a narrative. While I was sitting in confusion, Madison was already rewriting the story, turning people against me before I even knew we were in a battle. I started noticing more unsettling details. She'd started wearing clothes that looked eerily similar to mine. Same brands. Same color palettes. Same styling. I wore a forest green trench coat in a recent post. 2 days later. So did she. Same brand, same caption style. It wasn't coincidence anymore. It was mirroring. In one video, she even quoted a line I'd written in a blog years ago. Let people underestimate you. It makes the victory quieter and sweeter. She said it like it was her own. I felt invisible in my own skin. Like I was watching someone peel parts of me off and wear them as her own. I confided in Eric, my husband. He listened carefully and furrowed his brow. Do you think she's jealous? He asked. I don't know, I replied. I think she wants to be me. Eric didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. He just said, so, what are you going to do? I didn't know, because calling her out felt messy. And honestly, I wasn't sure I was ready to know the full truth. It's easier to pretend things aren't broken than to sit in the middle of the rubble and realize you were the only one trying to build. Then came the design post. She launched a new capsule collection through her boutique, and I froze as I scrolled. One of the pieces was a lace shoulder blouse with hand-beaded trim and a high neckline. I had sketched that exact piece in college. I still had the drawing in my old journal, the one I'd shared with her during finals week when we were dreaming up someday ideas. Down to the name, the LYSS blouse. That name, my name, used as a branding tool. She hadn't credited me, hadn't asked permission, hadn't even told me about it. I commented on the post. That blouse looks super familiar. Looks a lot like something I drew in college. Congrats, though. She deleted my comment. Then she blocked me. That night, I cried harder than I had in years. Not because of the blouse. Not even because of the jewelry. But because I realized I had become disposable. Not to a stranger. To someone I once called my sister. My inbox began filling with messages from mutual acquaintances. Did something happen between you and Madison? She's telling people you tried to sabotage her launch. She said you're obsessed with her. That word again. Obsessed. It was Madison's favorite way to discredit women who called her out. She would paint them as bitter, envious, unstable. I'd seen her do it before to others. But I never thought I'd be next. Even my workplace wasn't immune. My supervisor pulled me aside one afternoon. I heard from someone at the gala committee, she said cautiously. There's been talk about you possibly having personal conflicts with donors. I was stunned.
Who said that?
She looked uncomfortable. Can't say. Just clean up whatever needs cleaning up. I knew immediately where it was coming from. Madison had connections everywhere now. Her boutique had turned her into a darling of the Atlanta social scene. And I had become a cautionary tale. But here's the thing about betrayal. Once you stop denying it, you start noticing all the red flags that were always waving. I remember the time she cried when I got the scholarship and she didn't. The time she borrowed my car without asking and returned it with an empty tank and a scratch. The way she'd make jokes about me being the practical one or the safe bet whenever people complimented my style or presence. I remembered her face when I got engaged. The way she hugged me, too tightly whispering, "You really think he's enough for you?" I'd thought she was being protective. But now I saw it for what it was, resentment hiding in concern. I started talking to the people I trusted most, my mom, my brother Jason, and Eric. And their responses were heartbreaking in their honesty. My mom, "I never liked the way she looked at you when you weren't looking." Jason, "She always tried to one-up you, even in silly ways." Eric, "I didn't want to say anything, but I think she hated the fact that you were happy." It wasn't just me. They'd seen it too. One afternoon, I visited my childhood home and pulled out my old journal, the one with all the sketches and quotes. I flipped to the page with the blouse design. There it was, hand-drawn, dated, signed. I took a photo of it. I scrolled back to the blog post where I wrote that quote, the one she'd used on her video. There it was, time-stamped, archived. I took screenshots. I printed everything, put it in a manila folder, sat with it in my lap for hours. Not because I planned to sue her or drag her online, but because I needed to remember that I wasn't crazy, that I did create those things, that they were mine, and I wasn't going to let her erase me. The final blow didn't come from a stranger. It never does. It came on a Thursday afternoon. I remember because I was working from home that day, cozy socks, herbal tea, my planner open on the coffee table. I got a notification on my phone from a private Instagram account I didn't recognize. At Truth and Tap, Atlanta. I almost ignored it, probably spam. But curiosity got the better of me. There was only one post. A video. The caption read, "The real story behind the heart and soul launch. What Madison doesn't want you to know." I hesitated, then tapped. The video started shaky, a screen recording of a FaceTime call. Madison's voice filled the room. Laughter. Then words that made my stomach drop. Honestly, Alyssa's a whole aesthetic. Sweet, innocent, trust fund energy. She's like a Pinterest board with trauma. More laughter. Another voice chimed in, a woman I vaguely recognized from Madison's team. "And she still thinks you're her best friend?" Madison again. "That girl wouldn't survive a week in this world if I didn't teach her how to matter. I mean, let's be real. She gave me everything. I just upgraded it." Upgraded. That word echoed in my head. She'd taken my designs, my style, my jewelry, and now my identity. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. Eric came into the room just as I burst into tears. I couldn't speak. I just handed him the phone and pointed to the video. He watched in silence. I watched him. His jaw tightened, his brows furrowed. And when it ended, he didn't speak for a full minute. Then he looked at me and said, "We're not letting her get away with this." Over the next 24 hours, the video spread like wildfire through Atlanta's creative community. I received dozens of messages, some from strangers, some from people who had once unfollowed or distanced themselves from me, all now horrified. "I can't believe she said that about you. I'm so sorry for believing her side. She always seemed too polished. Now it makes sense." But the worst one came from Tasha. LYSS. "I know you're hurting, but I have to tell you something. That necklace? The one from your mom?
She didn't just wear it.
She sold it." I overheard her bragging about the price she got at a private auction. I stared at the message. My throat closed. She didn't still have it. She never intended to return it. She hadn't just borrowed something precious. She'd erased a part of my family's history. For profit. That night, I drove to Madison's studio. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't plan. I just knew I couldn't sit in silence anymore. It was dark by the time I arrived. The studio was tucked behind a row of boutiques, all darkened and shuttered. Except hers. The lights were still on. I walked in. She was there alone, adjusting a mannequin near the front. She turned and froze when she saw me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled, that same fake, frozen smile she used on her Instagram lives. "Alyssa," she said coolly, "didn't expect you to show up." I didn't answer right away. I just walked forward, set the manila folder on her work table and opened it. Photos, sketches, screenshots, the journal page, the quote post, everything. "I came to give you a chance," I said, "to return what you took, and to tell the truth." She scoffed. "I don't owe you anything," she said, crossing her arms. "You gave those things to me, willingly." "I didn't give you my mother's necklace," I said quietly. "You took it, and you sold it." Her face flickered for a moment. Just a second. Then she recovered. "Can you prove that?" I took a deep breath.
No.
"But you know you did. And now so does everyone else." Her mask slipped then. Just a little. "You always thought you were better than me," she hissed. "Just because you came from some perfect little family with hand-me-down heirlooms and therapy. But you were nothing until I styled you. You were boring. Forgettable." "No," I said. "I was kind, and you mistook that for weakness." I reached into my purse and pulled out the printed auction listing from the anonymous tip I'd received, with a photo of the necklace, clear as day. "Do you really think no one would recognize it?" She looked at it, then at me.
Then she laughed.
Not nervously, not guiltily, but mockingly. "You want it back? Go find it. Maybe the new owner will give it to you for Christmas." I nodded. "Thank you," I said. That's all I needed to hear. Then I walked out. I didn't cry in the car. Not this time. I didn't scream, or break something, or sink into self-doubt. Instead, I opened my notes app and started writing everything I remembered: timelines, conversations, moments of manipulation, names of people who'd witnessed certain things. Then I emailed myself a copy of the folder's contents. I CC'd it to a lawyer friend. And finally, I posted a photo of my old journal drawing on my Instagram with a caption: "I may not have the necklace, but I have the truth. And sometimes that's more valuable than any jewel." Hashtag the real story. Hashtag trust is not a gift. Within 2 hours, it had over 8,000 likes and nearly 2,000 comments. People were sharing it, tagging others, asking questions. Other designers came forward. "She did this to me too. She stole my fabric supplier and pretended it was her original contact. I interned for her. She took my sketches and told me they weren't marketable, then sold them under her name." The narrative was unraveling, but this time not mine. I sat in silence for a long time that night, staring at the screen, watching as the illusion broke down in real time. And still a part of me grieved. Not just for the jewelry, not just for the trust, but for the version of me that believed someone like Madison could ever truly love without needing to consume. The next morning, I received a message from a local news blog asking if I'd go on record. I declined. I didn't want headlines. I didn't want revenge porn. I just wanted my name cleared. My story told. I wanted the parts of me she stole to come home. Not physically maybe, but spiritually, emotionally. And in a strange way, they did. Because that night, Jason, my brother, came over with a small velvet box. Inside was a necklace. Not the same one, but similar. Delicate sapphires. Silver clasp. Hand engraved with a new inscription. "To my sister, unbreakable, unforgettable, unstoppable." I cried. For the first time in weeks. Because that was the real legacy, not jewels. But people who show up. People who see you when others only imitate. I wish I could tell you I found out everything through some dramatic confrontation, some earth-shaking confession. But no, it started with a photograph. Just one photo. It was my cousin Ella's engagement party in Atlanta. I couldn't make it because I had a client shoot in Chicago that weekend. Madison offered to go in my place, since she'd known Ella for years too. She'd said, "I'll represent both of us. Besides, you need a break." That was Madison, always presenting herself as helpful, generous, thoughtful. But hindsight's a funny thing. All those favors she offered now felt like moves on a chessboard I didn't even know we were playing. The photo popped up on Facebook the day after the party. Ella had tagged me, assuming I'd love the memories. And I might have, if it weren't for that one detail. Madison stood in the middle of the group, smiling, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. But what made my stomach twist was the necklace. My necklace. Not a replica. Not something similar. The necklace. I blinked.
Zoomed in.
Took a screenshot. I flipped to my jewelry box, the hidden compartment I'd used for years, ever since Mom passed. My heart pounded. I pulled open the drawer. Empty. Not just the sapphire necklace. Gone was my grandmother's wedding ring. My father's service medal. A pair of antique gold earrings from my aunt in Boston. The whole collection.
Gone.
For a few minutes, I couldn't even breathe properly. I just sat there on the floor, dizzy.
How long?
How long had this been going on? I didn't want to believe it. I truly didn't. I called Madison. 3 rings and voicemail. I texted. "Hey, random question. Did you borrow that blue necklace recently? The one Mom left me?" No reply. 10 minutes. 30. A full hour. I called my brother Jackson. He was the only one who had the code to my apartment, the same emergency code I'd given Madison, just in case. Jackson hadn't been by in months. That left one person. The betrayal didn't just sting, it scorched. Because I realized that while I was helping Madison get her business off the ground, teaching her how to edit reels, connect with clients, even lending her equipment, she was stealing from me behind my back. Over the next 2 days, more puzzle pieces fell into place. My friend Trish called, out of nowhere. "Hey, did you end up selling those vintage earrings? The ones from your aunt." "What are you talking about?" I asked.
Well,
Madison had them on at Ella's party, and she told Amber she bought them off you. For like $1,000. I felt nauseous. Then there was the social media post. On Madison's influencer Instagram account, one she'd just recently launched, she posted a reel showing off her new luxury collection. The sapphire necklace glistened under the light, with an overlaid caption. "Real elegance is inherited, not bought. Gemstones sparkles #family jewels." My jaw clenched. Inherited? From who?
me?
She had even repackaged my family's legacy as her own brand story. At that point, I couldn't stay quiet. I drove to her place. Rang the bell. No answer. Waited. Rang again. Finally, the door cracked open. She peeked out, not even fully stepping outside. "Hey, I was just about to call you back," she said, all casual, like I hadn't been spiraling for 2 days straight. I cut straight to it. "I need my jewelry back."
Now.
Her smile froze. "What jewelry?" "Don't play dumb, Madison." She stepped outside then, arms crossed. "I don't know what you're talking about. If you're accusing me of something, you should be careful." That's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even pretending to be sorry. She'd rehearsed this. "This is theft," I said quietly. She laughed. "Are you really going to call the cops on your best friend?" That sentence broke something in me. Because no, I wasn't going to call the cops.
Not yet.
Not because I couldn't, but because I wanted her to know what it felt like to be exposed. To be truly, thoroughly, undeniably seen for what she was. That night, I sat down with a notebook and wrote a list. 1. Find proof she stole the items. 2. Collect screenshots, posts, testimonials. 3. Reach out to Ella, Trish, Amber. Ask them to describe what she wore. 4. Call the antique dealer I'd worked with before. 5. Go through all my old vlogs and videos to identify when I last wore each piece. Evidence. That was step 1. But there was something deeper inside me too. A whisper I couldn't shake. She didn't just take your jewelry. She took your voice. Your history. Your identity.
And now?
I was going to take all of it back. I didn't sleep much that week. But not because I was grieving. No, that part had already passed.
Now, I was planning.
And plans, when forged in betrayal, sharpen like knives. First, I needed proof. Not vague suspicions or emotional outbursts. Tangible, time-stamped, undeniable evidence. If I was going to dismantle Madison, I would do it methodically, gracefully, like she never saw it coming. I started with the necklace. I remembered a brand deal I'd done nearly a year ago. A slow fashion company had asked me to model vintage heirlooms in one of their "Every Piece Has a Story" campaigns. In the final reel, I'd worn my grandmother's sapphire necklace and spoken about its history, how it was passed from my grandmother in Savannah to my mom, then to me. The timestamp was clear. The video had my watermark, and I'd tagged Madison in the behind-the-scenes photo. No way she could claim she'd owned it first.
Check.
Then came the earrings, the gold ones with the twisted rope design. I found an Instagram carousel from 6 months back. I was wearing them at a gallery opening. My caption read, "From Aunt Sharon with love."
Clear as daylight.
Even my Aunt Sharon had commented, "I'm so glad you love them." I screenshotted everything and saved them to a cloud folder labeled Recovery. After that, I reached out to Ella. I called her under the guise of asking about the party, but halfway through I said, "Hey, random, did Madison wear any jewelry that caught your eye?" "Oh, totally," she replied. She made a whole thing about how those earrings were rare Art Deco pieces passed down from her great-grandma or something. Why? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just thanked her and moved on. Next, I called Amber, the one Trish said had heard Madison's "I bought them from her" line. I kept the call casual. "Hey Amber, weird question. Did Madison mention anything about buying jewelry from me?" Amber chuckled. "Yeah. She told us you were selling some heirlooms because you were starting a minimalist era." I thought it was weird, but she seemed excited. I muted the call for a second to scream into a pillow. Minimalist era? Really? She was weaponizing my personality now. I added the quote to my evidence folder. Then came the sleuthing. Madison had just launched a fashion influencer account, and in doing so, she'd gifted me more receipts than she realized. Every photo she posted wearing my pieces was public. I took screenshots, dated each one, cross-referenced them with my old vlogs, photo shoots, and unboxings. There was even a clip where she twirled, showing off the sapphire necklace and saying, "A piece of Southern elegance, straight from my mother's line." Her mother? Her mom had grown up in Ohio and never wore jewelry. Each lie was like a loose thread in her perfectly curated persona. And I was pulling. By the end of the week, I had over 50 pieces of evidence. Photos, videos, voice memos, tagged posts, messages, and receipts. All time-stamped. All organized. All damning. But collecting proof was only phase 1. Phase 2? Damage control.
She had my jewelry, yes.
But she wouldn't keep my name. I emailed a PR friend named Clarissa. She owed me a favor. I'd helped her shoot a documentary short last year, free of charge. I explained what was happening. Sent her the evidence. Clarissa called within 10 minutes. "Oh, honey," she said. "She's building her brand on stolen legacy. That's not just unethical, that's illegal." She offered a strategy.
"Here's what we do," she said.
"We leak the story first, before she can scrub her tracks. We don't go to the police yet. We hit her where it hurts. Reputation.
Opportunity.
Trust." I nodded. Even though she couldn't see me, I was ready. We drafted a carefully worded statement for my social media. Nothing dramatic, no accusations. Just truth.
It read,
"When you work hard to build something, a story, a voice, a legacy, and someone takes it without permission, it's more than theft. It's erasure. Some of you have noticed pieces of my family's past showing up in places that don't add up. I'll be sharing more soon, with love and clarity, because silence protects the wrong people." I scheduled the post for Friday at noon. In the meantime, Clarissa reached out to a few microjournalists and fashion bloggers, people who cared about authenticity in the influencer space. She gave them early access to my evidence folder. Some of them were appalled. Others intrigued. One even texted, "Oh, this is gonna explode." But I wasn't done. Because while I wanted the world to see the truth, I also wanted Madison to feel what I felt, the shock. The realization that your safe, smug world is not as untouchable as you think. So I called her.
Calmly.
Hey Madison, I said. Just wanted to let you know, I'm posting something on Friday. About my jewelry. And my family's legacy. There was a long pause. Then, I don't know what you mean. I think you do, I said. And I want to give you a chance to return what's mine. No police. No lawyers. Just restoration. She hesitated. You're threatening me? No, I replied. I'm giving you a choice. Do the right thing. Or don't. Either way, the truth's coming out. I hung up. The rest of the week moved slowly, like a storm cloud just barely holding back the rain. I waited. Madison didn't respond. She didn't return anything. So Friday came, and with one tap I posted the statement. Within an hour, my DMs exploded. Some were confused, others supportive. A few said things like, "Is this about Madison?" I always thought she was shady. 2 bloggers reposted side-by-side photos. One of me in the necklace from a year ago, one of Madison from last week. The caption read, "When stolen legacy becomes fashion content. This isn't just messy, it's a masterclass in betrayal." By that night, #StolenHeirlooms was trending locally. And Madison? She hadn't even seen the real blow yet. That would come next. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about reclaiming everything. A week passed before I said a word to Madison again. But that silence wasn't empty. It was full of planning, documenting, and reclaiming every piece of power she thought she'd taken from me. I wasn't just preparing a confrontation. I was building a stage. I reached out to an old friend from college, Lila, who now ran a boutique marketing firm. She owed me a favor after I helped her launch her first content campaign. I told her everything about Madison, the jewelry, the lies. Lila was the first person who didn't just look at me with pity. She looked at me like I had a match in one hand and gasoline in the other. "Okay," she said. "We don't just expose her. We unravel her entire narrative." That's when it began. We drafted a campaign, not to go viral but to be surgical. I created a private YouTube video first, titled "What They Took From Me." It was raw, documentary style. I told my story in soft lighting. I showed clips of me wearing the stolen jewelry in older vlogs. Inserted dates, receipts, and timestamps. I had a folder titled "The Proof They Never Expected," and every piece Madison thought she'd buried was in there. Then we launched the slow burn. I posted a subtle reel to my main Instagram, a time-lapse of me cleaning out my studio, the caption simple, "Sometimes, silence isn't weakness. It's strategy." #watch this space. The comments exploded. "What happened? Where have you been?" Madison liked the post. That part made me laugh. The next day, Lila and I published a blog post on Medium, "Influencers and Integrity, When Borrowed Stories Become Stolen Truths." No names. But anyone close enough to the story would know. I didn't need to scream. I just needed to open the door and let the truth walk in. Then came the podcast. I got invited to the Creative Circuit, a small but rising podcast for female entrepreneurs. I told my story, again anonymously, but with enough breadcrumbs that people in our community, clients, brands, followers, began connecting the dots. Madison's face was still out there promoting family jewels and heirloom elegance, but now the comments started shifting. One post under her video read, "Wait, weren't those earrings originally from someone else?" Another, "Something about this doesn't sit right." Then it happened. 3 clients dropped her in a single week. One of them emailed me privately. "Hey, I think I owe you an apology. Madison told me you'd gone MIA and sold her your branding packages. I paid her $2,000 for a real package, and all she did was copy yours from 2022. My stomach turned. But I didn't reply in anger. I simply said, "Thank you for telling me. I hope you find the right creator for your brand." Because I didn't need to rage. The fire was already spreading. And then came the day I finally walked into Madison's pop-up event. It was hosted at a trendy warehouse space in downtown Charleston. Her heirloom collection was being launched in person for the first time. I wore all black, hair pulled back,
Clean.
neutral, not vengeful, just undeniable. She was at the front, greeting influencers, laughing, wearing my grandmother's ring like it was hers. She saw me and everything about her face shifted. She walked over, voice a low hiss. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see the collection," I said, tilting my head. "You're not invited." I smiled. "I know." I stepped closer and handed her a sealed envelope. She glanced down. "What is this?" "A legal notice for property theft, including attached documentation, witness statements, and screenshots of resale attempts." She stiffened. "You wouldn't." I leaned in. "You should know by now, I don't bluff." People around us were watching now, pretending not to, but very much watching. I turned on my heel and walked out. But as I left, I saw her face in the reflection of the glass door.
Cracked.
Splintered. Exposed. Not because I'd yelled. Not because I'd created some public drama. But because I'd shown up with the one thing she never thought I had left: control. And with that, the curtain closed on Madison's charade. After the confrontation, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. There's this lie we're sold. That revenge feels like fireworks.
Loud.
Fiery. Explosive. But what I felt walking out of Madison's event was more like standing barefoot on fresh earth after a storm.
Quiet.
Grounded.
Done.
Then typed back. "Thank you. It means more than you know. And hey, it's never too late to do the right thing." Because that's what this journey taught me. It's not about the people who break you. It's about how you decide to rebuild. And me? I wasn't building a brand anymore. I was building a legacy. It had been a full year since the gala. Since Madison's apology that never came. Since I stopped looking backward. And yet, on an otherwise ordinary Thursday, the past knocked again. I was sipping green tea on the patio when my assistant, Claire, came rushing out. "There's a client on hold," she said. "You're going to want to hear this." I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, who is it?" Claire hesitated. "It's from Westbridge Holdings. They said the name is Madison Bell." I laughed, out loud. Not out of spite, but disbelief. I took a long breath, walked back inside, and picked up the call. "Hello." There was a pause on the other end. Then, "Hi. I wasn't sure you'd take the call." Her voice sounded different.
Smaller.
A little cracked around the edges. "I didn't expect to," I replied honestly. "I understand," she said quickly. This isn't a pitch. I'm not calling for work. I'm calling because I wanted to tell you something." I waited. "I've stepped away from branding," she said. "I had to. After everything. I lost a lot of clients. Deservedly so. But more than that, I lost the version of myself I thought I could protect with performance. And I realized what I did to you. It wasn't just cruel. It was cowardly." The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was sacred. She continued. "I never gave you credit. I never said thank you.
Or sorry.
And I know that might mean nothing now. But I needed to say it anyway." I closed my eyes. Some part of me had always wanted this moment. Not for revenge, but for truth. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied. Truly. We didn't talk long. There was no invitation to reconnect. No promises of redemption. Just truth. And that was enough. When I hung up, Claire was watching me from the doorway. "Are you okay?" she asked. I smiled.
Yeah.
"Actually, I am." That night, I took a walk by the water. The same shoreline I used to wander when I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Back when my business was a whisper. When I felt invisible. Now, everything felt full circle. I passed a bookstore that had recently reopened and noticed something in the window. My essay, Silk and Saltwater, printed in an anthology of emerging female voices. I stood there, the wind tugging at my coat, and felt a kind of joy that has no volume. Only wait. It was never about vengeance. It was about visibility. And now, Standing there, I finally saw myself clearly. Weeks later, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership retreat. The topic? Creativity with integrity. How to stay whole in a world that profits from pieces. I opened my speech with a story about my grandmother's brooch. How many of us, I asked the room, have given away parts of ourselves, our sparkle, to people who treated us like ornaments? Hands rose. Eyes welled. Heads nodded. But here's the thing, I said, steady and sure. You don't need their display case. You need your own light. Afterward, a young woman came up to me and said, "You changed the way I see myself." And in that moment, I realized the most powerful transformation isn't when people remember you. It's when they remember themselves through you. My studio, now called Rooted North, grew into a creative collective. I brought in other designers, illustrators, writers. All women who'd been burned and rebuilt. We didn't just make brands. We made safe spaces. One of our first campaigns was for a nonprofit supporting young girls in foster care. We didn't just design their visuals. We told their stories, with dignity. That's when I knew my pain had become someone else's permission. And that was the real legacy. Months later, I visited my grandmother's old house, now owned by a kind couple who'd kept her rose bushes alive. They let me walk through the garden. I sat on the same bench where she used to shell peas and hum songs with no lyrics. I took out the brooch, pinned it on my sweater. It caught the light, and I finally understood. I wasn't just part of her legacy. I was the continuation of it. A woman who knew her worth, who learned to speak without shouting, who turned betrayal into a blueprint, and maybe, just maybe, who would one day be someone else's reason to keep going.